What would you do if you came across a starving stranger on your way home? Would you dare to help them, even if it might be dangerous? Emily did, and her bold decision changed her life forever. But what no one knew was that the man she saved would become the love of her life, in a story that's both heartwarming and irresistibly tempting. Emily was known for her big, caring heart. She grew up in a small village where everyone knew each other. Her mother was a school teacher, and her father worked hard on their farm. From a young age, Emily's parents taught her how important it is to help others. This lesson stuck with her as she grew up. Watching her parents, Emily learned that kindness was the best gift anyone could give. It made her feel good to see others happy. Whether it was sharing a meal or lending a helping hand, Emily wanted to be just like her parents. She dreamed of spreading kindness wherever she went. As Emily grew older, she became a health worker and spent her days helping the sick and elderly in her village. Everyone in the community admired her selflessness, and she felt at peace knowing that her work made a difference. One evening, Emily was walking home from the clinic. She had spent the day treating a young boy who had fallen from a tree, and though she was tired, she felt fulfilled. There, sitting under a tree near the village entrance, was a young man. His clothes were dirty, and he looked weak and cold. Emily had seen people in need before, but something about this man caught her attention. He didn't look like he was begging or asking for help, he just sat there, staring at the ground. Without thinking twice, Emily approached him. "Hello, are you all right?" she asked gently. The man looked up, and Emily could see the pain in his eyes. He shook his head, unable to speak. Emily hesitated for a moment. She knew it could be dangerous to help strangers, especially after dark, but she couldn't leave him out there. "My name is Emily," she said softly. "You can come with me to my house. I will give you something to eat and a place to rest." The man looked at her with surprise. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, he nodded slowly, accepting her offer. Emily helped him to his feet, and together they walked to her small home at the edge of the village. When they arrived, Emily led the man inside and offered him a chair. Her home was simple, but it was warm and welcoming. "I'll get you some food," she said, disappearing into the kitchen. While she prepared a meal of rice and beans, she couldn't help but wonder about the man. Who was he? What had happened to him? Why was he sitting under a tree alone? When Emily returned with the food, the man was sitting quietly, staring at the floor. "Eat," she said, placing the plate in front of him. "It's not much, but it will help." The man nodded gratefully and began to eat. Emily watched him closely, noticing how thin and tired he looked. His hands trembled as he held the spoon, and Emily realized that he hadn't eaten in a long time. After a few minutes, the man put the spoon down and looked up at Emily. "Thank you," he said quietly. "My name is James. I've been on the streets for months now." Emily's heart ached as she listened to his story. James had once been a skilled carpenter, building beautiful furniture for people in the nearby towns. He had a wife and a young son, but his life took a turn for the worse when his family was killed in a tragic accident. Devastated by their loss, James couldn't bear to continue working. He fell into depression, and eventually he lost everything: his home, his job, and his will to live. "I thought there was nothing left for me," James said, tears welling up in his eyes. "I wandered from place to place, not knowing where to go or what to do. I've been living on the streets, but I don't want to live like this anymore." Emily listened with compassion, her own eyes filling with tears. "I'm so sorry, James," she said softly. "No one should have to go through what you've been through, but you're not alone anymore." For the first time in months, James felt a glimmer of hope. Emily's kindness had given him something he thought he had lost forever: human connection. Over the next few weeks, Emily continued to care for James, offering him food and shelter. She helped him find small jobs around the village, and slowly, James began to rebuild his life. He worked hard, fixing broken chairs and tables for the villagers, and little by little, he regained his strength. As time passed, James found himself thinking about Emily more and more. He couldn't deny it anymore: he was falling for her. Every time he saw her smile or heard her laugh, his heart skipped a beat. Emily was kind, smart, and beautiful, and James knew he wanted to be more than just her friend. One afternoon, while they were talking after school, James worked up the courage to ask her a question that had been on his mind for a while. With his heart pounding in his chest, he asked, "Emily, do you have a boyfriend?" Emily smiled shyly and shook her head. "No, I don't have a boyfriend." James's heart raced with excitement. He couldn't believe it, she was single. This was his chance. For a moment he hesitated, not sure if he should say what was on his mind, but then he took a deep breath and said, "Emily, I really like you. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I was wondering, would you be my girlfriend?" His words hung in the air, and James held his breath, hoping she would say yes. If she did, it would be the beginning of something special, a chance to bring his romantic life to life, just as he had always dreamed. Emily thought for a moment, her heart beating faster as she looked at James. She could see how much he cared for her, and she had always liked him too. With a smile, she nodded and said, "Yes, I'll be your girlfriend." James's face lit up with joy, and Emily felt her own excitement grow. They both laughed, feeling a rush of happiness. In that moment, everything felt perfect. Without thinking, they moved closer and hugged each other tightly, as if they never wanted to let go. It was a warm and comforting hug, full of love and promise. Then, for the first time, they shared a soft, sweet kiss. It was gentle and new, but filled with emotions they had never felt before. It was as if the world around them disappeared, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. They were happy, and their hearts were full of love like never before. One weekend, when the house was empty and quiet, James found himself thinking about Emily. He wanted to be close to her, but he didn't want to push her into anything. He cared for her deeply and appreciated how much she had done for him. He hoped that if anything happened between them, it would be because she truly wanted it. To his surprise, that very day, Emily came over to visit him, smiling warmly as she walked in. Without saying a word, she leaned in and greeted him with a big, unexpected kiss. James was taken aback, but also filled with happiness. He could feel how much she cared for him. Emily looked at him with kind eyes and asked, "How are you? Do you want to have a romantic moment with me?" Emily had always been raised to be kind and good-hearted, and throughout her life, she had never found someone who made her feel so safe and loved. She had never had a boyfriend before because no one had truly cared for her in the way James did. For the first time, she felt ready to let someone into her heart. She wasn't scared. Instead, she felt excited to share this part of her life with someone she trusted. This felt different, special, and she was willing to take the next step, knowing James would always respect her and care for her. In just a few conversations, Emily realized that James was truly interested in her, and she began to feel more comfortable around him. As their bond grew stronger, Emily found herself wanting to show him how much she cared. She knew she had a special place in his heart, and the thought of being closer to him felt exciting. As they were talking, Emily noticed how James's eyes lit up whenever he looked at her. Playfully, she leaned in closer, making sure he could see the soft, beautiful curves of her body. She didn't say anything, but her actions spoke louder than words. James was captivated, feeling drawn to her like never before. With a shy smile, Emily gently took his hand, leading him toward the bedroom. Her heart was beating fast, but she felt safe with him, knowing that he cherished her. They both knew this moment was special, and as they entered the room together, there was a deep connection between them, one that was built on trust, care, and mutual desire. As Emily lay on the bed, she felt a wave of nervous excitement wash over her. It was like butterflies were dancing in her stomach. James, sitting next to her, looked just as shy. He leaned in closer, their faces just inches apart, and Emily could see every detail of his face. His warm smile made her heart flutter. This was the first time she had seen such a vulnerable side of him, and it surprised her in the best way. James's eyes sparkled with admiration, and they seemed to shine like stars in the night sky. Emily felt a blush creep up her cheeks, making her feel warm all over. In that moment, she realized how special this was. She had always thought James was kind and funny, but seeing him like this made her feel beautiful and cherished. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, her voice a little shaky, but filled with curiosity. James smiled wider and replied, "Because you're amazing, Emily, you light up every room you walk into." Hearing those words made her heart swell with happiness. She never expected someone like him to think of her that way. As they looked into each other's eyes, everything around them seemed to fade away. The sun outside shone softly through the window, creating a warm glow that wrapped around them like a cozy blanket. Emily felt safe and happy, as if they were in their own little world. "Do you really mean that?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James nodded, his expression sincere. "Yes, I do. You make me feel happy just being around you." Those words filled Emily with joy. She had always admired James for his kindness and how he always knew how to make her smile. They both sat there for a moment, feeling the electricity in the air. The closeness was new and exciting. Emily couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would they laugh together, share secrets, or maybe even explore what it meant to be close friends? As she held his gaze, Emily felt a spark of courage. "I think you're amazing too, James. I've always thought so," she confessed, feeling her cheeks grow warmer. James's face lit up with a smile that made Emily's heart skip a beat. Slowly, James moved his hand along the curves of Emily's body, his fingers tracing the delicate outline of her waist and hips. His touch was careful, almost as if he was afraid of breaking the fragile moment that hung between them. He took his time, letting each gentle caress linger, feeling the softness of her skin under his fingertips. Emily's breath quickened, her heart racing, but she felt safe, cherished in a way she had never experienced before. Though they were both shy, there was a silent understanding growing between them, something that words couldn't express. The warmth that radiated from their bodies created a cocoon around them, shielding them from the outside world. In that moment, it felt like time had slowed, leaving only the two of them wrapped in each other's presence. James's hand continued its slow journey, moving up to her shoulder and then down her arm, as if he were memorizing every inch of her. His touch was tender, respectful, as though he was savoring the privilege of being close to her. Emily's heart swelled with emotions she had kept buried for so long. She closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the feeling of being so deeply connected with him. They held each other tightly, their bodies fitting perfectly together, as if they had always been meant to be this close. Each gentle movement, every soft brush of skin against skin, only deepened the bond they were building. James leaned in, their foreheads touching, his breath warm on her face. It was in the silence between them, in the soft rise and fall of their breathing, that they found the words they couldn't speak out loud. With every touch, every caress, they shared something more than just physical closeness. It was a feeling of trust, of vulnerability, of letting go of all the fears and doubts they had held on to for so long. Each moment felt like a promise, a quiet reassurance that they had finally found something real, something worth holding on to. Their connection deepened with every passing second, an unspoken affection that filled the room. The world outside seemed to fade away, leaving them in a perfect, shared space where only their love mattered. Together, they experienced a moment of pure joy, wrapped in each other's arms, savoring the beauty of being so close, so connected. James held Emily tightly, as if he were afraid to let her go, wanting to keep this feeling alive for as long as possible. They could feel the rhythm of each other's hearts beating in harmony, a melody that spoke of love and trust. Emily looked up at him, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "I never knew it could feel like this," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. James smiled down at her, his heart swelling with affection. "Me neither, it's like everything else has faded away, and all that matters is you and me," he replied, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. As they gazed into each other's eyes, the world outside ceased to exist. They shared soft laughter, their voices blending into a sweet harmony that echoed in the quiet room. Each smile they exchanged felt like a promise of more wonderful moments to come. The intimacy of the moment made everything feel brighter, as if the sun were shining just for them. James leaned in closer, his breath warm against Emily's cheek. "You're so beautiful," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. Emily felt a blush rise to her cheeks, a mix of shyness and delight washing over her. "And you make me feel special," she replied, her heart fluttering with each word. In that serene bubble of connection, they began to share their dreams and hopes, their whispers weaving a tapestry of future possibilities. James spoke of his aspirations, of wanting to build a life filled with laughter and love, while Emily shared her dreams of exploring the world and experiencing all its wonders. Each word deepened their bond, creating a shared vision of what they could build together. They held each other a little tighter, their hearts beating as one. The simple act of being together filled them with a warmth that felt like home. With every passing moment, they discovered more about each other, unlocking pieces of their hearts that had long been hidden away. As the days turned into weeks, James and Emily found themselves falling deeper in love. Their connection blossomed, and with each shared moment, they realized that they were not just lovers, but partners in life. They supported each other's dreams, celebrated small victories, and faced challenges hand in hand. Their love was built on a foundation of kindness, trust, and understanding, which only grew stronger with time. One evening, under a sky painted with stars, James took Emily to the spot where they first shared their dreams. The moonlight danced on her face, illuminating her smile, and he knew without a doubt that she was the one he wanted to spend his life with. With his heart racing, he took her hands in his and said, "Emily, you've brought so much joy into my life, you make every day brighter, and I can't imagine my future without you." Emily's eyes sparkled with surprise and happiness as James reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, his hands trembling slightly. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice filled with love and hope. Emily gasped, her heart soaring as she opened the box to reveal a beautiful ring that glimmered in the soft light. "Yes, yes, I will," she exclaimed, tears of joy filling her eyes. James slipped the ring onto her finger, and in that moment, they both knew that their lives were forever intertwined. They embraced tightly, feeling the warmth of their love enveloping them like a soft blanket. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love and unity, surrounded by family and friends who had watched their love story unfold. If you love this inspiring story of kindness and love, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel for more meaningful stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever helped a stranger? We'd love to hear your story.